All right. Well, if you ain't hear that by now, then you obviously know that this truck has a cylinder misfire. I did retrieve a code, but we're gonna act like I didn't do that because I just got it pulled in the garage here, hooked up the scan tool, the MS906BT, the one that has yet to be updated, and we'll go from there. But only thing I know is which cylinder is misfiring, and it has a pending code. But I digress. So what's going on? What happened originally? The car ran out of gas, and the car has been misfiring ever since. Now the guy's not from here; he's from out of town. Never worked on his car a day in my life before. Don't even have any history on it. So I'm just looking over it as I assess things and seeing if anything has been touched before. Look like a coil has been replaced in the back. Looks brand new, but and you have the silencer here covering up the ignition coil, so it's not going to be exposed to the elements. So it ran out of gas, and it's been misfiring ever since, and it's on cylinder 2. So my conjecture is simply that once the car ran out of gas, if you know about the combustion chambers and how the liquid or the flammable liquid of gasoline is more of a conductor than a dry atmosphere. So if you have a dry condition or a lean mixture inside the combustion chamber, it stresses the ignition system, so that spark has a tougher time jumping that arc versus it being a moist condition. Like, if you touch if you're in water and the power line is dropping, you happen to go in that water and you're grounded and you're going to get electrocuted and die. Yeah, that's pretty much kind of like that. It's easier, so the path of least resistance. So my assumption is it ran out of fuel, created a lean condition. The spark plugs was worn out. The coil was worn out. The coil was stressed trying to make that jump, and we got what we got. Or it simply could be a stuck injector because of quote unquote dirt. Now, I've never heard of, if you know how fuel systems design, it logically doesn't make any sense for sediments to just all of a sudden get accumulated inside of the sump and cause the injectors clog up because it's low on fuel. If you pull a fuel tank out, fuel is a solvent itself. If it's solvent, it's going to clean and break down the dirt. It also has a little bit of alcohol in it, the ethanol, so it'll help with the water also. And it has a fuel pump strainer, filter, and the injector strainer that it has to go through before it actually clogs up the pintle. That doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. It could be a lot of things. I don't know. That's why we're going to go ahead and assess it. But you heard a misfire. We're going to pull the intake off the silencer. But first, we're going to look at the live data here, see if we can pull up some misfire graph, confirm that cylinder 2 is defective. Then we're going to clear the code, see if it corrects, because GM does have episodes where you have to clear the code for it to start working normal again. And it's just stupid enough not to be able to go through a testing phase. So I don't know at the moment what's going on here, but we're gonna find out. But sometimes you do have to clear the codes on GMs for the component, or even in cases Volkswagen's Audis, I had that happen. Clear the code, see if it started working like normal again. And but first get your screenshot. So let's get a snapshot. Let's get logged in first, then get some information, and then we're gonna go from there. All right, we are in the system now. The key is on, engine is off. We're gonna go to the control unit, powertrain control module. I'm gonna have to put a jump start on a battery charger on here. On this battery, it's got 10 volts in there. Trouble codes. We're going to retrieve the codes here. I'm not going to worry about the transfer case. They're probably just the monolith with the powertrain control module. They probably just work hand in hand, taking feedback information and making accommodations. I'm just going to make an assumption. Alright, so we have our powertrain, we have our fault codes, we have 2. Now, one of them is a P0105. Which is the intake manifold pressure sensor performance. Now, my biggest concern is with these two. I'm assuming, hopefully, it could be an infinite realm of possibilities of what happened, but I'm hoping that the intake valve, is not compromised, causing inconsistencies with the map sensor or manifold pressure sensor here. So, but like I said, we're going to erase it and recheck, but we do have misfire data on cylinder 2. Clear this code and see if it continues to misfire. There's the throttle body. All right, let's start it up. All right, so we got it started back up and it's still misfiring. So we're going to look at misfire data. Misfiring even when we cleared the codes. So I'm going to go ahead and look at misfire data, and we're going to start pulling some stuff off. We're going to go to powertrain, where we were. We're going to go to special functions. We're going to go to cylinder power balance, and what that will measure is the cylinder contribution. All right, continue. Engine should be running though. Okay. All right, so here we are in the misfire graphs. Here's our cylinder 2. That confirms that the check-in light code was accurate. It is constantly misfiring, and what this is actually picking up either the it's picking up the cylinder contribution. It's not contributing. It's a possibility. Also, could be crank angular distortion that it's picking up. It could also be that it's not picking up the confirmation from the ignition coil. There's a lot of methods the computer probably implement to determine if it's misfiring or not. All the other cylinders are fine, so what we're going to do is just simply go after cylinder 2. You also have a lot more information that significantly impact the fuel delivery and ignition timing down below. Mass airflow sensor. We have load calculation, airflow, coolant temperature. But let's go ahead and tackle that ignition coil and see what's going on with that. So remove this hose clamp here, and there's a other one here. I'm trying to get away without having to take the air box all the way off. Then we're going to take the fuel pressure regulator. It should be for the fuel pressure regulator. Take that vacuum line off. I'll pull this all the way out. Yeah, that vacuum line does go to the fuel pressure regulator. So we're right here at the ignition coils. Number 1 is going to be here. This is close to the drive belt. Drive belts will drive your accessories, like your alternator, power steering pump, etc. And it's always, number 1 is always going to be closest to the timing chain. Number 6, or the last cylinder, will be the furthest away. So here's 1, 2. Here's the one we're after, and it has a lock on here. And simply what you do, push down this lock. On the sides here and remove it. Then you can push down this tab and remove the plug. Now I do have my test meter here. I want to test the powers and grounds, but I will say on the GMs, if you don't see any power with the key on engine off, don't stress, because you may have to put a jumper wire from the pin that you want to connect and start the engine, simply because the vehicle is not going to administer any power with the vehicle off. That's the unfortunate part about Chevy. So don't think things are broken and you don't have any powers and grounds. You'll have to put like a what do they call them things, one of those pencil, those pin piercing pins, and like an extension or a safety pin in the back of it, and just start the car up and check for your powers and grounds. So what I'm going to do, I'm simply just going to swap this coil with another one, with the neighboring one. Since 3 work, I want to take 3 out. And this is the quickest route for diagnosing. It's not that I'm trying to skip some things. It's just faster. Up on it, it should come right on out of there. Oh, nope. Totally my fault. Alright, I'm gonna take a 10mm and pull those out. Swap these two. There's a lot of oil in these things. I got lucky. Swap. And let me mark it so I won't forget. Alright, the intake is just partially put on. I'm gonna start up and see if the misfire changed. And we're gonna pull up my live data in the meantime and see if I still got the misfire graph pulled up and see if it switches to number 3. Power balance. So if it goes to number 3, then it confirms, yep. So the coil is simply bad. So if you can see there, our misfire went to cylinder 3, confirming that the ignition coil is simply just bad. Just need to put a new coil in it. So here's number 3. Here's the better out of the bunch. Still, even though it burns better, it's not fouled like the other one. So here's number 3, which was burning fine. Here's number 2, which wasn't burning. After a day and it looks fouled, this is more ideal conditions of a spark plug here. It'll catch it there. So I'm gonna recommend he replace these spark plugs because they are worn out, and we're gonna put a new ignition coil in there and be good to go. Now I could went as far as checking the wiring integrity, but that still would be extremely extreme in this particular case, being that it was easy just to swap the plugs out. You would only have to pull out an oscilloscope and start doing wiring integrity testing. Say if that coil was still misfiring on cylinder 2, even though we swapped it with a known good. So I'm not going to worry about the wiring. Simple diagnosis. Swap the parts. You know, if the signal was staying, if it had too much of a signal, like it was grounding out and it was shorting the coil out, it would have still been a misfire on number 2 and 3. But that's not the case. If it was missing a component such as positive, negative, or signal, we would have still had a misfire on cylinder 2 and number 3. Since we swapped the good one with the bad one, everything worked. Odds are extremely high that we have a good working wiring system, communications on cylinder 2. Wire integrity, so I think we're fine. I'm just going to recommend that we replace the spark plugs and the coil, and we'll be good to go. to see how it was working. Alright, everything's running fine. Just going to go ahead and start looking at misfire data now. See if our misfire counter is ascending in value. Let's go here to powertrain control module. We're going to go right to special features. Cylinder power balance. So assuming everything's fine, we're not going to see any increase in value. We're not going to see a 1, 2, 3, etc. Like we did before. And before it was cylinder 2, that's perfectly fine. It was doing it idle, so it was a hard miss. We're going to keep on going down. This is misfire current cylinder 1 through 6, and then we have a misfire history. We go down a little further. So that number, this value here, cycles of misfire data, this is just a misfire count the computer's going through with its testing phase. Once it reaches a certain value, it'll start back over. And when it starts back over, assuming it'll detect a misfire, it'll store that in the history. And after so many misfires, it'll generate a check engine light. And this varies from vehicle to vehicle, but this likely is Chevy's protocol when it comes to determining a misfire or generating a hard code for a misfire. So we don't have anything in the history. We don't have any current misfires. So it just went from a simple diagnosing process of just swapping the coils out, which wasn't a big deal. If you don't have the access to scan data type information like I got, I mean, there's a lot of scan tools that are available now that give you so much information, like this tool here that's over $1,000. They'll give you bidirectional abilities, and but they're on $1,000. So if you have that, but if you don't want to go through that, you can always just swap the coils out, clear the code, drive it, and see if it'll tell you what's going on. Like this cylinder is misfiring now. If the problem moves to another cylinder, like if you switch the 2 to the 3 and it moves to the 3 and it was originally on a 2, then it's going to be that coil and you can just replace it. So assuming that you just don't want to shoot apart at it, I can completely understand. But it's going to be a slower process, but it'll eliminate the possibility of just having to guess at it, from a coil to the spark plug to the injector and so on. But this was very basic. Didn't have to go through any wire testing. Now, unlike, I don't even want to go on a tangent, but unlike the other vehicle I had before that had wiring issues that contributed to a coil failure, I mean, that was something unique and it wound up being the computer. But it's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, and that should be in that video. It's the Nissan I worked on. But other than that, this car, like I said, is done. Took an hour. Everything's good to go. But hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, have that reassurance on my work. See you on the next one.